Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2021 Election Forum for the District 2 City Council Contest in College Park. My name is Mark Goodson, and I am the Managing Editor of the College Park Here and Now. I will be facilitating this discussion. Joining me are District 2 candidates for City Council, Robert Catlin, Letitra Esters, and Susan Whitney. As residents of District 2 may select 2 candidates on their ballots, this election is considered a contested election. This forum is brought to you solely by Streetcar Suburbs Publishing, a 501c3 nonprofit corporation. Streetcar has 3 outlets: the Hyattsville Life and Times and the College Park Here and Now, which are nationally recognized print newspapers delivered once a month to each city respectively, and a website, streetcarsuburbs.news. This forum is being recorded on Zoom, but the uninterrupted recording will be broadcast on the Here and Now's Facebook page. It will then be made available on the website, streetcarsuburbs.news. The newspaper will also have a print version of a Q&A for all candidates published in the October edition, which should arrive on October 13th. Candidates will have 2 minutes to answer each question. The questions and topics are informed by the newspaper's coverage of the city. Additionally, the Here and Now sought questions and topics from residents. Some of those questions will be asked as well. This will be the first time each candidate hears each question. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Esters, Ms. Whitney, and Mr. Catlin. Thank you for being here tonight.
Pleasure. Thank you.
The first 3 questions are for introduction purposes, and we'll alternate who does the lead off of each answer. And the first lead off will go to Dr. Esters, and we'll cover some basics here. Dr. Esters, can you please introduce yourself, the neighborhood where you live, and what your involvement in the community looks like?
Okay, thank you. My name is Letitra Esters. I live in Oak Springs, which is north of University Boulevard. I currently serve on the the City Council. I have served since the last year because I was elected to the City Council via the special election that was held last year. So I get to repeat this whole process all over again. Prior to serving, I served on the Advisory Planning Commission and have been involved volunteering in various ways, not any formal ways beyond that, but in various things throughout the city. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Whitney, if you could introduce yourself next.
Yes, hi, my name is Susan Whitney. I live in the Berwyn neighborhood of District 2, which is just south of Greenbelt Road. I have volunteered in various ways in the community, as far as I've been distributing the Berwyn District Civic Association newsletter for about 10 years. I volunteered at Park Run a few times, and I participate in that frequently. I've also, I gave to the College Park Food Bank frequently over the pandemic and had the opportunity to volunteer there recently, and I'm incredibly impressed by the organization. I am looking forward to serving even more. I also served as Letitra Brown Esters treasurer during the special election, and was happy to serve capacity as well.
Thank you, Ms. Whitney. And Mr. Catlin, if you could please introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you. I'm Bob Catlin. I'm a Berwyn resident since 1989. Although before that, I lived in Berwyn Heights for 4 years. That's where I really got to know the College Park neighborhoods. Before that, I was just known about Route 1, and that was not an appealing place to look. So luckily, I got to know more about College Park. When I had a chance to buy a nice Victorian house here in 1989, I jumped on it. Because I put the house under contract a good 6 months before I actually purchased it, I had a lot of time to come over to College Park in Berwyn. And so when I moved here in May '79, I hit the ground running, actively involved in the neighborhood, got involved in the city, got involved in the newsletter, became the president of the Civic Association back about '96 when the Washington Post came to us to talk about putting their plan in. Got elected to the city council in '97, stayed there till 2013. The last 11 years I spent as the mayor pro tem for the city. I got off the council after 8 terms. 16 years is practically the longest about anybody's ever spent on the city council. We always used to have a terrible amount of turnover. I got off the city council. I got named to the housing commission, the Attic Towers. I had been many years since the beginning on the College Park Academy Charter School Board. I stayed on that. I'm still on that today. Obviously, I've stayed involved in the Civic Association, have been either the president or co-president of that the last 3 years. In the past, I've been engaged with the Lakeland Community Heritage Project from its beginning. I've been on the College Park Arts Exchange Board. So I've done a lot of things. I've kept busy. I'm now retired, of course, so I have a little bit more free time than I had many years ago. So I really got involved because of housing issues, and now housing issues are front and center again. So I would really love to get involved in that again. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Catlin. And our next introductory question, the response will begin with Ms. Whitney. By way of further introduction, can you please tell us why you decided to run this year for City Council?
Yes. Basically, in 2017, in the local elections, there were some local candidates who ran who I thought had some pretty problematic views. And I was very surprised by that. And those candidates did not get a lot of support in the election, but it really made me think, if you want to make sure right-minded people are running, you should consider running yourself. So when the special election came up last year, I actually contacted PJ and asked if there were any people running who he felt were qualified, and he said that yes, there was someone who had expressed interest, and that was Dr. Esters. And I said, well, if I can help her in any way, I will, because at that time I was not considering running. And so I did help out on that campaign, and part of helping with that really made me see that, it was doable. This is not something I've done before, so it made it a little more accessible to me. And then when Councilmember Dennis, when it became known that he wasn't going to run again, the teacher contacted me and said, I think you should consider running. And I thought about it for a long time. And I have been looking for ways to give back to the community. And I think that I will be very good in this role. And I am a person who likes to get things done. And so I decided to run.
Thank you. Mr. Catlin.
Yes, thank you. As I mentioned at the end, I've really been interested in housing issues. Back when I first ran, that was a huge thing. If you know all the housing that's been built now, back in 1990s, none of that practically existed. So we have the campus, the courtyards, the South Campus Commons, all of the private housing, none of that existed. The neighborhoods were really under threat. Speculators were buying up the houses. There was incredible demand for houses. College Park median sales price really skyrocketed. It's not quite as high as it is now, but for a while, currently we're pretty much in the middle on the median house prices in College Park for the county as overall, which means we're like 16th out of about 32 zip codes. if you go back to 2007, we actually got as high as the 8th highest price zip code in the county, which is phenomenal given all the new development in the county and so much of the suburban areas where it's really high priced housing. So a tremendous amount of housing was built, but sure enough, a few years ago, where it became obvious that we don't have nearly enough housing for the students. And that creates a great opportunity for investors to buy up our neighborhoods. So we really need to take action in a whole host of housing issues. So it's senior housing, workforce housing, student housing, the issues with restorative justice in Lakeland tied to this also. So I wanted to get involved again. Like I said, I was working with the senior program over at Attic Towers, and we certainly want to renovate our building, which will be like $6 million, but we'd also like to put up a second building. So there's a need for more housing for seniors and disabled. That's more subsidized. So I'm really anxious to get involved. I have some ideas about how we might approach housing. When we did housing before, pretty much every idea that was adopted was something that I proposed and got almost total unanimous consent by the council to adopt. So I'm ready to hit the ground running on that again. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. Esters.
Thank you. As mentioned before, I began serving on the city council since last year through the special election, and I feel like I haven't had enough time to do the work that I want to do. You know, I think it's important for each and every member of a community to contribute in some way, shape, or form. I think it's vital to be able to do this. I think in having the time that I've had on the council, I feel like I've hit the ground running because I've had to learn as well as work all at the same time. Now I want to be able to take some of what I've learned to contribute to some of the issues that are ongoing in the city. Some of them have been mentioned, including the issue of restorative justice, as well as affordable housing, which the council has talked about recently and having to focus on it. Quality of life issues are still very important to me as well. So I feel like in some sense I had a head start, and now I've got to take what I've learned in this year to do more and to continue to contribute to the community. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you. And in the last introductory question, Mr. Catlin, you will have the first response. And you mentioned a series of housing related issues. And this question is asks you to take one of those issues, the one that I guess matters most, if you were to say you were running on an issue. And can you explain to the audience what the city council can do on the issue that you mentioned, please?
Okay, well, probably the most important thing, even though there's many important things with housing, most important thing is housing for students. We've got to provide housing for students. What is great is all that housing for students that we've built in the last 15 years has meant a significant decrease in traffic on University Boulevard and Route 1. It's amazing. You can go back to the state highway and look at their traffic data for the area since 2005 when University View 1 opened. The decrease in traffic is great. It's not nearly as congested as it used to be. There's probably no major college in the country that has the ability to have so many students living within walking distance of campus. We just have so much undeveloped land that can be converted into housing. We've converted a lot of it, but there's a lot more. I'd like to be, with all the housing that's proposed and been approved for development downtown, we have projects up here in Berwyn that will be open next year, but there's a number of major projects downtown that will be opening in 2 or 3 years. And because the university has a defined population, and some of that population cannot afford these units, I would like to be able to subsidize these units. So part of the campus population that cannot afford them will be able to afford them. This will help the community a lot too, because right now the lower priced housing is in our neighborhoods. It's in our single family homes. They're more affordable than the apartments that are near campus. So if we can move part of the students out of those who are living there because of its lower cost, that will help us in many ways. Like I said, it'll help the neighborhoods, it will help the students, it will help the development, the retail development on Route 1. So it helps the traffic go down, helps us in so many ways. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Dr. Esters.
I agree with Mr. Catlin about the issue of student housing being necessary. I also want to point out the need for us to preserve neighborhoods. With the rentals that appear in our neighborhoods, there are a number of developers that are coming in and buying homes at an increased price, well beyond what the price is even set, because they can, and creating opportunities for their benefit, but not necessarily benefiting the neighborhoods, and building that sense of community amongst families who we want to attract as well. We appreciate students. We also appreciate students who choose to stay here and to find homes and the ability to stay in the environment. We also have individuals who are aging in place. And, how is it that we can provide opportunities for those individuals to continue to live here and feel like they can afford it, and wanting to be the environment where we're diverse with individuals from all walks of life who feel like this is a welcoming environment. Thank you.
And Ms. Whitney.
Thank you. Yes, if I had to pick one issue that I'm prioritizing over others with running, I would say neighborhood stabilization. I think the challenges that are faced by our communities with money being so cheap right now, and with the kind of always available renter pool in the city, I think it's made houses in the communities more attractive to developers who can pay well over asking price and scoop up properties before we are able to get to attract people who really want to put down roots in the community and develop it and contribute to it, and hopefully be here throughout many stages of their life. I think College Park should be a wonderful place to be a child, be a university student, to be a working adult, to be a retired adult. And I think we should be making efforts to make this an attractive place for people to live at all of those stages of life. And I think definitely affordable housing, building new affordable housing is part of that. But I also think creating opportunities for people who want to buy and set down roots to be able to do that is also very important. So that would be I think that will be a major focus in the next 2 years. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you. And we'll go now to a few questions from readers who have submitted questions to us. And the turn for first responses to Dr. Esters. We asked residents of the city to offer questions in this forum, and this first question comes from Robert Thurston of District 2. Robert writes, what will you do to support programs and policies which value the residents and residential communities within College Park? Examples could be to advocate for homeownership, for stewardship efforts, stabilize revitalizing efforts, and other community living.
Thank you. I think that it's going to be important. We've been on this issue for so long in the past few questions, but the idea of advocating for neighborhoods, programs such as the program offered through the city and university partnership to encourage people to live and buy in this neighborhood. In fact, when I first moved to College Park, I used to work at the University of Maryland and took advantage of a similar grant program in order to put a down payment down on a home. It was a condo, but it was still my home. And I think that helping to create and to discuss ways in which we can promote such programs more, add to those programs so that folks can take advantage of them is going to be key. I think that there are many people who are interested in living here and may not have the opportunities to, may not know of these programs. So I think we need to do more as it relates to sharing that information and encouraging the council to put more toward those efforts because it's going to continue to be an issue for so many people. I think that we have very distinct communities here and they have roots within the environment. They want to be stabilized. We need to listen to the needs of those communities and do our best to meet those needs.
Thank you. Mr. Catlin.
Yes, thank you. One thing that's happened in the last 20 years with all the development is the city's revenues have drastically increased. When I was on the city council, our budget was like $7 million. Now we're in the $20 million. We haven't added that many staff. If you look up at North College Park and College Park Woods, the city has a lot of investments going on in the neighborhoods up there. So I think there are things that can be done to make the neighborhoods more attractive, but a lot of it is tied to development. Development on Route 1 brings a lot of amenities. It brings Lidl, it brings Vigilante, it brings some nice restaurants. But we have the money to assist in all of those projects, things that really didn't exist until the last 10 years. So I'm very hopeful with all the new development coming on that revenues will not be the issue in making College Park a nicer place to live, a better place to live. So it's really tied to getting housing for students, trying to squeeze out the investors to some extent. The housing on Route 1, all those projects have been bought up certainly after they've been built. Investors are paying like $150,000 a bed for those apartment beds. In our neighborhoods, the going price for a bed is about $80,000. That's a huge disparity. We've got to tackle that issue. We've got to find a way to put more students in the apartments by making the prices come down. So that's where I'm headed. And we have techniques by law that we've never used that we can use to do that. And I'm pretty hopeful when I present them that I'll get some acceptance. Some of it needs the University of Maryland support, but that has not been a problem in the last 10 years. Before that, it was a huge problem. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Whitney.
Thank you. As far as what I would like to do for the neighborhoods themselves, first of all, I definitely want to support programs, basically publicize opportunities that are out there to help potential home buyers actually purchase homes in College Park, whether that be the grants that are available for from the City of College Park, the College Park City University Partnership that makes it easier for city and provides $15,000 in assistance for city and university personnel to buy in the city, to really spread the word about that. Also to perhaps create more opportunities such as that, not just for employees of those two entities, but maybe to expand it to support for just people, workforce housing in general, but not just rental, but also buying assistance. I also think the College Park City University partnership has discussed some very interesting proposals, such as a land trust where they will come in and purchase properties before they've really gone on the market, as soon as they hear about it, and then preserve that as an owner-occupied space where the land would belong to the trust and the house would belong to the people renting it, which would then provide more access to people who may not be able to buy into the community otherwise. I think that's an excellent program. As far as other things I would like to do just to help neighborhoods, especially people aging in place or the disabled, I haven't heard much about the April and October program, which I would love to encourage to come to our neighborhoods and to help older or disabled people really do work on their homes that need to be done. I'd also like to expand childcare options. I would like to expand green space. I would like to connect neighborhoods together and continue to improve walkability and bikeability. Thank you. That's all they had.
Thank you, Ms. Whitney. And our next question is going to begin with you, Ms. Whitney. So you're ready in the next round. Monroe Dennis, a resident of Lakeland, is stepping down at a time when the community of Lakeland is seeking restorative justice from the city, as you all have mentioned here tonight. What can you do to support the efforts of Lakelanders in this effort?
I'm glad you asked that. One of my top priorities were I to be elected would be to revisit the attempt to gain an easement through the Berwyn Commercial District at the end of Berwyn Road that would connect the Lakeland to Berwyn predictably. Right now, there's a gate there. It's privately owned. Sometimes the gate is closed. Sometimes it's open. I would like to, and I know the city in 2017 sent a letter to the owners of that development asking for an easement through the property. And I believe the city was ghosted on that and we never heard anything back about it. And I would like to revisit that. And I'm not really sure how much went into it after there was no response received, but I would like to find out if there's anything with the extra tax revenue that we have. Maybe there's something that the city has that we could offer that would be appealing to the owners of that business. If there was some kind of, if they imagined or real protest by business owners there, I would be more than happy to go around and individually speak to all of them to see if I could bring them all on board. That would be one of my main goals. I would also like to improve the connection between Lakeland and Lake Artemisia. That has been a sore spot for the Lakeland community for a while. And I think anyone who's run through there or ridden their bike through there after a storm and had it flooded out, I think the flooding's improved a little bit, but I still think it could be a much more attractive way to approach what used to be an important part of their community. Other things, I actually have a friend who's part of the National Preservation for the Historic Trust, and she's part of a group that goes and actually identifies historic buildings that are in need of sensitive rehabilitation. I have approached her to ask how we could possibly get Lakeland High School considered as part of one of those projects and what the steps would be for that. I also think if that were done, I think it would be excellent to identify a building in Lakeland that maybe could be kind of a museum for the artifacts that are part of the Lakeland community. And I think that could really be a tourist attraction. And I think that could be an excellent draw for the city and a point of pride for the entire city and for Lakeland itself. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Whitney. And Dr. Esters?
Thank you. I think that given the current restorative justice steering committee work, it is going to be vital to learn from this group what they think is important to occur in Lakeland. The whole purpose of the steering committee is to set the course and give some guidance to what is important in this area. When you consider that you have a number of displaced individuals who have wanted to come back to Lakeland for so long, the effects and the impact of urban renewal and what that meant to so many people in a negative way. What is it that they want to see to help them be restored? I think it is vital for us to understand, listen, and do the work that's necessary to restore them in the way that they think is most important. Thank you.
Mr. Catlin?
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, fine, thank you. Yeah, restorative justice is very interesting. It certainly is a new attempt across the country. Only a couple of cities have even started to engage the issue. Being a member of the Lakeland Community Heritage Project, going back when they started, it was fascinating to learn about the history of Lakeland. Obviously, not living here back then, I didn't know the history all that well. Since then, I've spent a lot more time looking at it. I spent a lot of time researching old Diamondback articles to find out what they had to say about the urban renewal, and before that, obviously, the flood control project to the Corps of Engineers and how they were all tied together. The research on this is fascinating. I grew up in Akron, Ohio in the 1960s and 70s, and my parents' house was in the urban renewal district for the city of Akron. I lived in a working class neighborhood. It actually had some integration in it. I went to a neighborhood school 3 blocks away that was 60% African American. My relatives, many of them lived in the urban renewal district, my grandmother. And you know, growing up that way, I didn't think much about it. When I looked out my bedroom window to the west, I could see Interstate 77 off in the distance. It sort of worked to segregate the working class neighborhoods from the middle class neighborhoods. And you know, back then you didn't think about it. You were just a young boy growing up, and that was just the way the world worked. So all of this talk now has made me really rethink a lot of my childhood and my time in Akron, and what was done there that was so negative. It was actually probably much worse than here, because there they usually use roads to demolish Black communities and Black urban areas. So in College Park, I think we might have had a better initial plan. I think one of the problems was probably the federal government gave up on us. I think they decided the project got drug out, it was over budget, they wanted to get rid of it. And the city really didn't have the means or the ability or ever the intention of funding the urban renewal project. Now that we have some funds available, I think we can really think seriously about how we can try to remedy some of the wrongs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Catlin. And you will have the privilege of going first next. And I wanted to give you an opportunity to get your camera back up, because it looks like we only see your name on the screen. So there we go. Now we can see it. Thank you. And so, Mr. Catlin, this next question begins with you. This is a question from another resident, another District 2 resident. Karen Keating writes, what will you do to get out in the community and get to know your district?
Well, since I've lived here so many years, I've been involved in Berwyn, and I've had a lot of involvement in Lakeland. Those are communities that I'm pretty familiar with, certainly familiar with Lakeland. The issue in Branchville and Oak Springs has been a little bit different. In the past, they have not been buffeted by development. They haven't been buffeted so much by the demand for student housing. the issues they have been pretty much more the generic issues that people in the city have. So it would be interesting to get with the Oak Springs and Branchville residents again. I know on the east side of Rhode Island Avenue, obviously there's some commercial development there. There's a storage warehouse going up. You've got some industrial zone property there. You've had a proposal in the past that we were able to sort of dissuade. They wanted to put in a self-service car wash right there next to, pretty close to where the self-storage unit's going in. We know from our own Route 1 car wash, self-serve car wash, that those can have some big problems late at night. We really don't want one across the street from people who trying to live in a quiet neighborhood. So obviously I'll be getting out. I got out some when we had the proposals for the apartments, for the townhouses. The townhouses have gotten built, but those projects all went back, 15 plus years. They came, they went, they came back, they went, they came back. So those were the main times I had to engage the people. And I'm sure we will be engaging the people again about the status of Attic Towers, the plans to renovate the building, the plans to perhaps put up a second building on the adjacent vacant property that we have there now. Those would be sensitive issues. So Oak Springs, I think your time is starting to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Whitney.
Hi. I'm so glad you asked this question because this whole running for office thing is pretty hard. But the thing about it that I've absolutely adored is going door to door and meeting all my neighbors. It's really been fantastic for me. We live in such an interesting community with people bringing all sorts of different perspectives. Even when I knock on a door and somebody, clearly disagrees with me on an issue, I enjoy hearing them explain why and talking to them about it. And I find that I always learn something from them. So I'm super social. So I think getting out and getting to know people in my district will be the least of my concerns. I love to do park run on mini Saturdays, and I chat people. I can chat people up afterwards. I would definitely be going to the district, the community association meetings. I will continue to go to the various food banks and see and learn first and different services that other charities here and learn what they're doing firsthand and meet residents there. And, community cleanups, like all the different events that we have around town that give me the opportunity to meet different people that have different focuses in the community, because I think we're very fortunate that we have people with a lot of different expertise. So you're going to find people kind of dispersed and a lot of different kind of volunteer organizations that bring their own interests to the table and that I can learn from. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Dr. Esters.
I would have to concur with Ms. Whitney about the knocking on doors. Campaigning has allowed for me to knock on doors and meet people last year as well as again this year. It's difficult in times of COVID and the pandemic. It's challenging. People want to stay safe. Not everyone is open to the idea of speaking to you directly. Sometimes it's better through a door, but having the opportunity to do that has been great. Attending events too, I think is vital where they occur. So how you can get out there, attend events that are happening, touch base with people. I've been able to connect with folks in each of the neighborhoods. So walking around, and especially when I consider Branchville and Oak Springs, because a lot of the focus often is on Lakeland and Berwyn. And we don't always hear a lot about Oak Springs or Branchville, and Branchville is sort of disconnected from one another in ways. So I think it's vital to get to those communities, knock on doors, not only at the time of election as well. So when things are coming up, to be able to, connect with people via email, Zoom, using every opportunity that's available to understand what issues may be going on with people, responding to them. I think I've been trying to do that over the last year and will continue.
Dr. Esters, you will also have the lead on the next question. Schools are at the top of the city's 5-year strategic plan. What does supporting District 2 students and parents look like in the next 2 years?
Schools are very challenging in this county, where we have other counties around us that are probably doing a little better in the realm of education. I think that being able to influence support of schools and the work with our students and their parents in not having to choose to go to private schools. Many people cannot afford private schools. So what is it that we can do to support public education in a way that is beneficial to our students? Most recently, this past year, there was a focus on providing tutoring services. During COVID, as we all know, especially those with children, there have been some challenges with some students in doing well in this environment. And because there was not as much engagement, there was a need to really focus on school in different ways. So providing opportunities such as that. I mean, we have College Park Academy, but that's limited, and everybody can't go to College Park Academy. So how can we look at other opportunities to connect with surrounding schools and support those institutions and the programs that they have to really benefit our students? I think also building relationships with school board and really understanding some of their challenges and what we as parents can do to support their efforts so that our students can benefit and folks do not have to leave to go to other places. You know, oftentimes I'm talking to families and they're saying, wow, I really love it here, but I'm really concerned about the school system and how my students will do and fare. And it has me thinking that I want to move elsewhere. It's challenging when you don't have direct influence, but I think as much as we can do to support will be vital. Thank you.
Whitney. Same question to you, Ms. Whitney.
Oh, okay. Well, I believe I'm the only candidate. I'm not sure, but I think I'm the only candidate in this race who has a child, and my daughter has gone through the Prince George's County Public Schools, and I was adamant that she would attend public school. Not only did I not feel like I wanted to pay for my child to go to school, I also just think if I'm a taxpayer and my tax dollars are going towards schools, I would like to send my kid there, and I would like to support public schools and their development. So as far as being a resource, I definitely know the ins and outs of options for students for children in District 2. I've studied all of them from when I was an assistant photo editor at the Gazette and gave myself all the assignments inside local schools that my child might ever go to so I could do intel. I could certainly share that expertise with other parents. As far as supporting the schools that are here, PTA membership is not exclusive to the families of the kids who are at that school. I think there's a compelling reason for people in the community to join the PTA of, say, Paint Branch Elementary School and show up and find out what the school needs for support. Do you need someone to do landscaping in your courtyard in order to create a garden for the students? Do you need people to go and advocate at school board meetings for your needs? Perhaps there could even be a community board of directors for the elementary school, but I think the existing PTA is probably an excellent avenue for that. I also think supporting the College Park Academy and finding out if that's a model that people want to expand into elementary school so people have more continuity. That has been discussed. But I know that I've been very satisfied with the education my daughter has been able to get living in this community. And I'm very happy that we bought a home here. Thank you.
Mr. Catlin.
Yes, thank you. Obviously, public schools are very important. Certainly in College Park, we have more problems than most because our students go to so many different schools. And practically all of them are not within the city boundaries. We've certainly provided grants for students. We try to assist schools where we can. Obviously, the most important thing we've done was to work with the University of Maryland to start the College Park Academy Charter School. And after a few years now, we have a catchment area where 35% of the students come from College Park Elementary Schools or the Riverdale Park Elementary School. So that makes it quite a bit easier for our residents to get their children into that school. Plus, there has been a lot of talk and work taken on opening up an elementary school for the College Park Academy. Right now, the focus is putting that at Paint Branch. Expanding Paint Branch, putting the academy school there for grades K through 5. That's still a ways off. I think it would help a lot if we could have that. I think that is probably the biggest thing we can do that we actually have power over. So that's one reason I've actually stayed on the academy board for like now 10 years. I had planned to get off as soon as we had the first graduating class a couple of years ago. Then they started talking seriously about having the K through 6 school in College Park at Paint Branch. And so I thought, well, gosh, that's my backyard. I better stay engaged with the College Park Academy for a bit longer and see where this heads. So I'm looking forward to progress. The College Park Academy actually did quite well with the pandemic because our kids were used to virtual learning. We were able to survive all of the stay-at-home learning much better than the other schools, and we did a lot to tell other people how to proceed in that effort. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you. And this next round of questions will lead with Ms. Whitney. So schools are not the only thing in which the city council has a difficult time finding a footing, as was mentioned in this last round of questions. Some of the issues raised tonight involving housing and development are also under heavy influence by county rezoning plans. There are a lot of residents who are concerned that their wants and needs will not be reflective of the county's decisions in how it redistricts and rezones. So Ms. Whitney, in this upcoming year, 2 years, what will you do and what can the council do to give residents a more direct line of influence on matters such as zoning and development and things of that nature?
Well, it's definitely a challenging issue because oftentimes the city council seems to find itself in a position where they themselves feel like they have very little influence in terms of dealing with developers or the University of Maryland, or with controlling zoning. A particular problem or concern that I have is with the way the Berwang Commercial District, where Tacos a la Madre has been rezoned to a zone called CGO, Commercial General Office, which allows for much bigger development than the more scaled down and appropriate CN code, which is commercial neighborhood, has sent a letter to that effect, thinking that it's an inappropriate code. So the council could continue to do such things. And I think also it is our responsibility as council members to stay informed of these changes and how they will impact our neighborhoods, and to inform our residents of those changes, and to listen to them when they express concerns, and to figure out who the people with influence are within these seemingly kind of Goliath institutions. So I think informing the residents and giving them the opportunity to respond, and then directly liaising with what we are able to do and what I would endeavor to do.
Thank you. And Mr. Catlin, you're next.
Yes, thank you. Obviously, zoning issues are difficult because they're controlled the county and they're controlled in Upper Marlboro. When you want to go to a hearing in Upper Marlboro, you have to usually plan that you might be there all day. You might only be testifying for 2 or 3 minutes. It's not fun. I've been to Upper Marlboro, I don't know how many times, certainly more than 30 times over my lifetime here. I generally speak in favor of what's being proposed. A lot of times the city can negotiate with developers to get things that we want. Because we really need to be concerned when we go to the planning board that we're on board with the developer as much as possible. Because the reality is, if the developer doesn't support what we're proposed, we're probably not going to get the support of the committee there. We've opposed a few things in the past, and we've lost terribly every time we oppose something. So it's far better to negotiate, get the best deal that you can, try to assist the developers where we can, make it a win-win. People who go to Upper Marlboro and think they can beat the developer, there's so much pressure on the planning board to approve development to increase the tax base of the county. Those pressures are so overwhelming. But I think we've done quite well, considering how things could have ended up. I think the improvements that we've got for Route 1 are pretty substantial. We have so much better things for the residents to do on Route 1 than we had when I moved here, and even for the first 20 years that I lived here. So I'm confident that things won't get worse. Hopefully we can make things even a little bit better. But like I say, I'm pleased with what's happened in the last 20 years, especially when you think before that, we had 20 years of practically nothing happening on Route 1. Thank you.
Dr. Esters.
I would agree that making sure that we are informed and informing residents is vital and important. When you consider that we don't have control, the council does not have control over development, but can have an influence. So by the time that developers come to us, they're seeking our input, the input of residents, input of the council to really understand how they can work with us. But much of the decision making has been made. So they're coming to us already with this idea of what they want to do and trying to craft it to make it work for us as much as possible. I think that, or as much as they have to, I think that building our relationships with county representatives is key, and having those conversations that we can have with them about things that may be proposed is going to be key. The example I want to bring up is Stone Straw. So Stone Straw is a former straw company that's located, it's actually between District 1 and District 2 in Oak Springs. And there have been a few things that have been proposed there, but it's zoned heavy industrial, which means it could be anything. So as much as we want to be informed, we want to do our best to influence what happens there. You know, when you consider that it is a neighborhood, when you consider that there are traffic issues that have to be dealt with, there are a whole bunch of considerations that need to be made, but we need to make sure that residents are informed. So for instance, with Stone Straw and everything that had been going on there, there was a meeting in April, a community meeting to discuss that, so that residents really understood what zoning meant for that space. So as much as we can do that, I think we continue and try to build those relationships and have the necessary discussions to help influence.
Yes, thank you. The next question will be led in response by Mr. Catlin. The Tree and Landscaping Board has suggested the city take measures to preserve the tree canopy by focusing on the preservation of trees on residential properties. But residents have expressed concern about this and how the city will implement it. What can the city council do to support both the individual rights of homeowners and the sustainability of the tree canopy?
Well, I'm certainly in favor of promoting more trees in the city, but they've got to be in the right place. You know, I've been here a long time. I've seen a lot of trees die. I've seen a lot of trees cut down otherwise. There's so many competing things going on now. I've got power lines on both sides of my corner lot. I've had big trees in my yard that cause problems. They fall on the power lines. They can fall on my house. I think when the people put the trees in 70 or 80 years ago, they didn't worry about the trees. Now people have to worry about the trees if they weren't put in the right location. People have solar panels on house. People want to raise vegetables in their yard. You know, people have many reasons to cut down trees. And I just can't see having tree police. I just can't see that happening. I think a lot of people are very conscientious about having trees in their yard as much as possible. So I want to use the carrot to promote trees. I don't want to use the stick to keep individual homeowners from making decisions about the trees on their property though. Thank you.
Dr. Esters.
Thank you. I think that a lot of the attention from the community has been on the ordinance and not on the overall recommendations from the Tree and Landscaping Board, which include more than just the ordinance. I do value the idea of maintaining the tree canopy. I think also when residents consider this, they are looking at the fact that you have developers who come in and cut down trees, and they feel that all of this is now falling on their shoulders. So we're now asking them to make up for that. Well, I think that understanding all the recommendations that come from the Tree and Landscaping Board, which include building relationships and having those necessary discussions with the county regarding developers and what they need to do. So rather than cutting down trees in this area and then planting them anywhere within the county, you know, looking at ways to plant those trees back here in the city. Maryland Park and Planning, having discussions with them about trees and replanting trees. And programs that are developed for residents to help to support actually planting more trees. There's a program that's sponsored by the city where you call them and they can plant trees in your right of way. I don't know how many people actually know or take advantage of it. So utilizing some more of those opportunities to take a more proactive approach at planting trees from the city's perspective, but supporting folks in doing the same. I also think that this has been an issue for a while, and it's sort of been massaged and changed over time. I think there's more opportunity to listen to people, to understand the ways in which we can continue to build a tree canopy, especially when you consider things like stormwater management and all of those things that having trees actually benefit the city. So thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Whitney.
Yes, I'm very much for improving the city's tree canopy, and I am in favor of a lot of what the Tree and Landscape Board presented. I am not sure I have been hearing, as I walk around, a lot of opposition or a fair amount of opposition from residents about the ordinance portion of it and just really the particularities of it. I talked to a resident who said, hey, I have 2 heritage trees on my property that are diseased. I have to cut them down because of that, which of course is approved through the ordinance. But I don't want to replace them with 3 small trees. I want to go buy a larger size tree to replace it with, so that I will have a little shade from the get-go. And that's going to cost me like $1,750 a tree, and for the whole buying it and planting it. And I would rather plant 2 large trees than meet the qualifications of the ordinance and plant 6 small trees. And the way it looks like to me is I will have to spend a lot of money for the trees that will lead to the shade canopy, but also be penalized because I didn't follow the ordinance. So I think it's a lot of those particularities. Also, I felt like residents wanted more of a chance to respond to the proposal. I personally, as a resident, was not aware that we had such a decline in our tree canopy. And I think we could do something to get residents excited about it. For one thing, I think informing people of the monies that are out there in order to plant trees on their property by like a direct mailer would be an excellent thing. And also one last thing, I attended a Tree and Landscape Board meeting, and they were talking with Parks and Planning, and we found out that we actually could perhaps take back fee in lieu payments that developers in the past, which I asked about, have been paid into a fund that hasn't been tapped at all. So it's possible we could get, Glenarden just got $500,000 out of this from a current development, but we can't go into the past. It's possible we could take those monies and create a much larger fund that would allow residents to do more planting on their own property at an even more reduced cost. Thank you. Ran a little long.
Thank you. The next question will lead with Dr. Esters, and this is our last round of 3 questions. So each of you will have a chance to lead off on one more question. And Dr. Esters, negotiations with VO-Ride, the company servicing scooter rentals in the city, have been extended until the end of the month. What would you like to see come from these negotiations?
So let me begin by saying I understand that this is a service that is utilized by a number of individuals. And if we're talking about, and we value accessibility in the city and sustainability, it is important. It's a great service. I think the challenges have been that you find a number of scooters and bikes all over the city, and they're strewn and they're not picked up when they should be. So if this company is saying that, here is what we'll do within a 2-hour period, yet you have bikes and scooters who are staying in places where they should not be for days, therein lies a problem. I think for me, it's important for us to really understand the city's portion of this agreement. It recently came to the council, and what I understand is that you've got the university as well as University Park, who are part of this process in this contract. Well, I think that there should be room for everybody to give their input to this and to understand what is important to them. I think that bikes and bikes and scooters strewn throughout the city are a problem, and can be very dangerous, especially depending upon where you are. But it is a service that's utilized by a number of students, utilized by a number of people. So I value the benefit. I want them to understand our concerns and be able to respond to the concerns of our residents, and not just have us sign a contract and continue to deal with these issues moving forward, especially if this could be a multi-year contract. Thank you.
Mr. Catlin.
Yes, thank you. I think this is a fairly narrow issue. Everybody likes the bikes and the scooter program. It lets students get around. They get around faster. They don't have to drive cars. The kind of thing we'd like to see in the city. But again, they're strewn around. They need to be locked up. They need to be put in more secure places. They are found anywhere and everywhere. I find that the places they're supposed to be stored, if you actually went there looking for them, you probably many times wouldn't even find one because they're everywhere but where they're supposed to be. So operationally wise, we need the company to do a better job of maintaining their equipment, putting it where it should be. I've seen people bring bikes and scooters to the plaza where there's a station for that a few times. But again, a lot of times I walk by it, there's absolutely nothing there that you could use. But if you walk 100 yards down this path, you'll find them strewn somewhere else. So this has got to be improved upon. It just has to be. There's got to be a way. If it costs us more money, we've got to spend it. Because if the company thinks what they're doing now is the most they can do and make a few bucks, it's got to get improved. Thank you.
And Ms. Whitney.
Yeah, I'll start by saying that I hope we can find a path forward, because I love the VO Ride scooters. I love getting around on them, and I've found them very useful. But I find the fact that the company is not doing, consistently not doing what it says it's going to do and not keeping its promises to the city really bothersome. And I think if they do not have the ability to adhere to their promises, then there may perhaps be the opportunity to find another company that does. That having been said, if the city moves forward with this contract, I would like very exact stipulations of what we will do as a city if they do not keep their promises. Is there going to be a fine that we charge for every scooter that's left in a certain place, for a certain amount of time? Or rather, if we could have a program where residents reported scooters that were left behind, and if they, aren't collected by a certain time, the city picks them up once a week or something, and then charges the company a certain amount for every single scooter they have to pick up, and make it a monetary pain to the company not to adhere to its promises. And finally, before we sign the contract, I would want, I personally would want to read the language saying that we are allowed to end the contract if those promises are not met. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And here is our penultimate question, second to last. And Ms. Whitney, we will start with you. But this question really is for for all of you. Everyone here has mentioned that the topic of neighborhood stabilization in the form of home ownership, community building, things like this are chief among your concerns and priorities. So I'd like to ask you, what can the city do to attract and maintain long-term residents in District 2?
I think one thing that's been brought up a lot is having more of a sense of community, kind of an area that feels like a downtown kind of gathering spot, whether that is downtown proper or not, but a place where the community comes together and rallies together on a more regular basis. I think that would draw people to the city. I also think measures such as trying to encourage small businesses that cater to residents, but also have appeal to college students. Someone just mentioned to me earlier today that they would love to see an art store right over here on Berwyn Road, an art supply store, which certainly everyone from kids, little kids all the way up to senior citizens and students, everyone in between would love to have an art store. And that is also a third place. It's a place where you meet your neighbors, you establish connections across the different groups in the city. And as far as establishing connections, something I personally would like to do in District 2 is have a social gathering once a year for all the District 2 neighborhoods to bring neighbors together to meet each other. The question was posed earlier, how am I going to go out and meet residents and find out what their concerns are? I feel like it is just as important for residents to meet each other and to understand what they that gives them even more of a reason to stay. Students, if they meet their neighbors, maybe they're like, this is a really great community. I would like to set down roots here and stay here after I get out of school. So those are some of my ideas in that regard.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Catlin.
Yes, thank you. I think the key to District 2 really, to the most part, is probably the trolley trail. The trolley trail really covers District 2 quite well. A lot of people use the trolley trail. They walk their dogs, they run on it, they use their strollers on it. So maybe more amenities on the trolley trail would be great, like that land that's available up by Greenbelt Road, that's for sale, the 2/3 of an acre or so. To put some amenities there that would attract people who come up and down Route 1 to congregate. So I think that enhancing the trolley trail, which is great now, but making it even better, is really the key to bringing District 2 people together in a big way so that they get to know their neighbors. I watch people when they walk their dogs. It seems like everybody who walks a dog knows everybody else who walks their dog. And I know some of those people are coming from a little bit further away because I don't recognize them, and I should recognize them if they were Berwyn or Lakeland residents. So I would make that the key, would be to enhancing the trolley trail, to make it a place where people could meet with people. They could just sit and converse, maybe find something to eat. Just keep them there for a longer time and get to know their neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. Esters.
Last year when I was running, one of the things that struck me was that there is a separation of the neighborhoods that exist north of 193 to the rest of the district. It feels disjointed, it feels disconnected. So how is it that we can, build that sense of community amongst the entire district? And one of the things that came to mind was sort of similar to this idea of College Park Day. Wouldn't it be interesting for each of those communities to have a day dedicated to them? You know, so Branchville Day, Oak Springs Day, where folks from other parts of the district can come to learn more about their neighbors who are living in other sections of the district. I think that each of the communities has a rich history. You know, when I've talked to people who've lived here for many years, I hear about all the things that used to happen at Duval Field, all the things that people connect with here. I think that that's a way to do some of that. I do think that economic development is tied to this because I think that there is opportunity as much development has happened on Route 1. I don't feel that there's enough that's really focused on mom and pop shops, something that brings character to College Park, like that makes people want to come here specifically beyond the university. When you think of College Park, you think of University of Maryland, but you know, when I think of some other cities that I go to, there's a certain character that they have that I think we have really great opportunity to have. The streetscape has changed. Baltimore Avenue streetscape has changed drastically over the years. How can we help to develop some of that, to draw people here, and then to really promote our neighborhoods, which all are very distinct and interesting? Thank you.
Yes, and thank you once again, Dr. Esters, Ms. Whitney, Mr. Catlin. Thank you for joining us. You have one last question, which Mr. Catlin will have the opportunity to lead, and this will also serve as your closing statement. So, Ms. Ward, you know, let's turn off the clock, and this is your opportunity to extend any final thoughts you had to voters. But I did also want to prompt it with a question, and the question is, what is your favorite part of living in District 2?
Favorite part of living in District 2 is, I think it's the excitement I have by living so close to the University of Maryland. When I want to go to the University of Maryland, I don't drive to the University of Maryland very often. I often bike, I often walk. It's so great to have the University of Maryland so close to us and all the amenities the university offers. So I think that's what I like most about District 2 is this proximity to the University of Maryland and all the University of Maryland has to offer. So I guess in conclusion, I would say, I think College Park can be a much better place. I think my actions and policies over the time I've lived in College Park, it took a while for them to make a difference, but they certainly have made a difference. And certainly in my time off the council, I've been amazed at the speed about which things have improved. But the foundations were laid many years ago. It took a lot of people doing it. It took a lot of effort. There was a lot of roadblocks along the way, not the least of which was the roadblock the University of Maryland typically put up to stop it. So those days are long gone. I think the university has seen that their cooperation with the city is vital to their success in the future. As I mentioned before, I had a whole lot to do with a lot of the community projects for stabilization of housing in the past. Rent control, the homestead tax credit being drastically increased to save the homeowner money. The proposal I had that was adopted for homeowners to get a big tax credit on their bill if they're low income. We piggybacked on the state program, and that gives people 40,000, total of about 200 people, about $40,000 of reduced city taxes. So I've got a lot of ideas for housing in the future and for ways to improve the community. So I would appreciate people's support come November 7th. Thank you.
Whitney.
Okay, it's hard to pick my favorite thing about living in District 2 because I'm very happy here and I'm like so much about it. I guess if I had to pick one thing, I would say I love I love the trolley trail because I'm a runner and because I go out with my dogs and because it gives me the opportunity to see and meet other people. So the trolley trail and the people I meet on it. So I'll kind of cheat and give you two answers. As far as a closing statement, I just wanted to kind of go over what I see as my role as a council member. I think I have three main jobs. My job is to be a communicator, pushing information out and taking information in, and always being open to that. Being a watchdog, protecting the quality of life for residents and ensuring fiscal responsibility. My experience as a business manager, reviewing contracts, things like that. I look deep into how that impacts our company's bottom line, and I'll do the same thing for residents. Finally, I think you need a creative problem solver, and I am a person who's always looking for a different angle to approach a problem. My experience as a co-founder of a charitable ladies arm wrestling organization provided me with lots of opportunities to solve long-term problems and also to address issues on the fly. And I'm very nimble in that regard. And so I hope you will give me the opportunity to serve you as a council member. I think I will really enjoy it and I would be honored. So thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Esters.
Thank you. In thinking about this, I think the best part of living in the city and in District 2 are the residents. Everyone is so distinct, so different, yet everyone has a sincere interest in keeping their community and just being neighborly, engaged. All of those things I think are really, really vital. I have to share this quick story because this weekend I was walking on the trolley trail, which has been identified as a very interesting part of other people's experience in the city, and watched people painting utility boxes. It was amazing to see because they just came together to do this. What was a gray box then became this colorful piece of art that was shared with the community. And I think that really speaks to who the community is, who the folks are living in this community. I am proud of being a resident in College Park. I love being a part of a community that I find to be diverse, that I find to be moving in a wonderful direction as we develop and keep doing that. I want to still be a part of that. And I feel like I have so much more to give. And I would love the opportunity to do that. If I am elected and if people support me, I look forward to listening, advocating, and making informed decisions. I thank you.
And thank you to all candidates. Thank you for running. Thank you for being willing to serve. Thank you for giving the people of District 2 a choice on November 7th, and a choice between quality candidates. It's a truly exciting thing. And thank you also for being here tonight. That does conclude things. So, ladies and gentlemen, these are your three candidates for the District 2 City Council. On behalf of Streetcar Suburbs Publishing and the College Park Here and Now, I'd like to thank you for joining us. If you have any questions about this forum, how it was conducted, please email me at mark@hyattsvillelife.com. My email is also printed in each month's edition. The next edition should land on October 13th. Please, too, reach out to us if you have any interest in writing, if you have news tips, or just to introduce yourself. You are absolutely our lifeline and our pipeline to what is important in this city. So thank you once again, candidates, for sharing your time with us tonight, and good night to everybody.